Okay, we are recording.
All right, wonderful. We can go ahead and get started then. Can everybody see the agenda on my screen? Just let me know. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I just want to thank you guys for attending today. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I know it's kind of crazy saying that because Christmas is just a couple days away. I can't even believe that. But obviously, because of last month, it's been a little bit since we've met. So I just want to thank you guys for being a part. I hope you guys are having a good week so far. Christmas right around the corner. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. So some of my LTPT leads I had sent an email to just kind of asking you guys about some, digital navigator, digital adoption programs going on in your counties. So we kind of just want to start with that. We want to just kind of open the floor to you guys. I know Orange County said that they would like to share, so we can go ahead, if they're ready, we can go ahead and have them share. If not, we're just going to open up the floor to everybody and kind of see if there's some discussion there and if you guys want to share about any of those kind of programs going on in your counties.
Good morning, everyone.
Right,
Can you guys hear me
wonderful.
okay and see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Matei and team. Good morning,
Absolutely.
everyone. I am sharing the screen. Let me know if any issues or latencies, all right? First off, my name is Simone Babb. I am the Chief Innovation and Emerging Technologies Officer here at Orange County. So again, thank you for the opportunity to really provide and do a deep dive with this team on our county's initiatives towards broadband and overall digital equity initiatives. So for today's discussion, we'll really be focusing, of course, on our efforts as it relates to what's planned for our Digital Navigator program. And before I advance the slides, I am joined today by my team, which is David Bolts and Peter Murray. Peter and I will both be tag teaming on this initiative to present to you today. So Peter, when we get to your slides, I'll let you know, and then I'll transition the slides to you if you can let me know when and how to advance.
Okay.
We, first off, are really, truly excited about the work that we're doing throughout Orange County to really bridge the digital divide. And what I'm showing is at the 30,000 foot level, some of our initiatives to really, truly tell our story in one glance, meaning that overall, when it comes to digital equity, we're addressing multiple scopes around accessibility, digital enablement, via devices, and some of our programs to really meet the needs of our community. And as a phase one, just to take it a little bit a step back, we are addressing broadband access for those communities that essentially did not have access to high-speed internet. So this program includes also working with Charter Communications, who's our partner in laying out a plan for affordability and subsidized or discounted internet service for those who actually want to apply. So as we know, affordability is a key element to equity, in addition to devices, and really an opportunity for, where the funds are coming from to really allow this program to reach so many within our community. And with the digital enablement, we really have to consider this to allow access to devices to really have our residents have that improved access to good quality of life, right? So when we think about access to healthcare services, education, employment, workforce opportunities, social services, just having that opportunity and that enablement through devices to be able to connect to their families has so much social impact, mental connections as well. So this also includes our provision for Tier 1 with digital enablement is to provide that help desk service as a Tier 1, and then deep diving into that more personalized digital navigator service, which is our focus today. And at Orange County, we're continuing to do our work to expand our existing programs and advance those based on lessons learned and based on the, what we're hearing from the community through our ongoing assessments and calls through the LTP programs. We've had so far digital literacy for our seniors at our community centers, and also advancing as well to reaching those communities whose English is really not English is their second language. So we're heavily focused really on addressing workforce and education as well, specific to the telecommunications sector. We've had great partnerships in place so far to address what this framework of a pilot looks like. And in a case where this may be considered a specialized training, the telecommunications space, we really want to remain innovative and fluid on piloting ed programs and working with our community to really develop programs that make sense so that when they do come out of the system in partnership with our ed and career source, for example, that they can actually be placed into employment opportunities. So the area of focus for today's discussion, again, is around digital enablement surrounding the devices and our Tier 1 and Tier 2 assistance programs. Our BCC, our Board of County Commissioners, approved a $3 million grant to proceed with ERIS Foundation, and I think I see Michelle on the line, as a nonprofit partnership to assist us in the procurement and distribution of loaner devices. So the funding really applies as well to repurposing of devices, really keeping that sensitivity in mind with our environmental and sustainability purposes. And we at Orange County remain aware as well with our partners on the value of recycling and repurposing devices to remain sustainable. And this is exactly what ERIS Foundation does. It's what they do and it's what they're good at. So we couldn't be more pleased to continue this partnership. They'll be assisting us in the procurement and managing of new devices. And again, repurposing the devices. And we've quantified this sum and we've come up with about 1,500 cellular-enabled tablets for those residents who need that, but they don't have access to Wi-Fi to connect. So that's one challenge. And in addition to the procurement, ERIS Foundation will perform the Tier 1 device management services. These include intaking, scrubbing, and resetting the device as necessary. And very important for us is to be aware of overall security management of the devices. So what happens if, a person decides to go pawn the device? How can we really keep track? And so we've created processes and still involved discussions with maybe locking down the device to have overall security and management in place. So overall, we're just addressing the accessibility portion through devices. So again, our strategy for addressing needs come from a place of really understanding where the gaps are within our community. Our nonprofit organizations really understand best, and they are the ones that are trusted within our communities, intricately involved already in working with various programs for other communities to support their needs. So, we thought that was the best conduit and opportunity to work with them, to have those conversations and truly deep dive into what they're hearing as the community gaps around devices and support programs. So we've targeted several groups to maximize those efforts, and we're working to really ensure within a community that we're considering all challenges. That first slide that I shared earlier on, from access to devices to affordability and adoption services, to make sure that none of our residents really get left behind. We've conducted to date several personalized outreach calls to various organizations, and that still continues. We've explained what we're trying to do to bridge and the funding that came down from the federal government to address equity. And, they were quite surprised, like, you're doing what? You're offering me devices and programs? Yes, sign me up. And so it's really having a great impact in the community. And it all comes down to funding and making sure that you have streamlined processes and to make sure that there are no gaps or overlaps, and making, that process easy for them to understand as well. And of course, having the right partnerships in place. We've had conversations with some of our healthcare organizations. And what we've really heard is that some of the patients are immobilized, no access to transportation, so telehealth options are critical. And that means when we give them that access, now we have to provide those onboarding support services and to make sure we really have a true plan in place so that they don't feel like, we're halfway there. We never gave them the full service wraparound with devices and support services that are really personalized for them to navigate efficiently. So the next 5 slides, I'm going to turn this over to Peter Murray, who is really supporting us in this consulting capacity. And this is where we're really going to deep dive into how we're narrowing into our digital navigation initiatives, and including, tailored interfaces for adaptive assistance, for example, all with the goal of enhancing the user experience to create that more individualized and user-friendly, those user-friendly options. So Peter?
Thanks, Simone. It's a pleasure to work with Orange County, and thanks, Sean and Matea, for the opportunity to talk about the program today. Yeah. And Merry Christmas to everyone. Excited to, I think this is my last day, right? I'm off tomorrow. So real quickly, Dense Networks, we've been working in telecommunications and digital equity since the late 90s. A lot of work up in Philadelphia, and they're still one of our clients. And Orange County has been just all in on this. Our commissioners, our nonprofits, and with the help of ARIS, we've really been able to bridge and build relationships deep into the community. And from my point of view, once you get past the basic infrastructure improvements, you have to sort of view this as a customer service oriented business, to be a navigator, which is you bring all the components together and you look at each individual and you try to understand their challenges as they try to become digitally enabled. So we've met with over 25 of the county's nonprofits and county agencies, everyone from corrections through family services, veterans services, and we found some key areas to just really focus in. And our strategy is to hire multiple providers to achieve different goals. And one of the simple ones one of the big takeaways we found is English. It's not enough to do these services in English. You really need to accommodate Spanish. And in our community, also Creole was a big element. So that added another level of complexity because as you hire navigators, whether they're volunteer or paid, you need to qualify for those conditions. And that's where volunteers can be a real big help in trying to deliver what is in a lot of cases basic digital knowledge to an individual. Just how their software, what software they have, how do you open it, how does their hardware work. I'll talk about our literacy program for seniors, and what we discovered is that a lot of seniors just don't have basic knowledge, even how to use their phones. So we focused on just basic device management, the software support, and their home setup. And I'll talk about home in a minute. If you could change the slide, please, Simone. So we are just about to launch a pilot, Seniors First, which administers Meals on Wheels and also has hundreds of seniors that come to our community centers for meals and interaction. They have they receive 400 cellular tablets. And what they found is 25% of them, this should say tablet, that was my mistake. 25% of them were returned because people couldn't operate them properly. So and there was a high percentage of homebound people. So we're starting a pilot, which will help to get people engaged. Seniors, there's an epidemic of loneliness, and this is a healthcare condition now. So we've targeted Meals on Wheels. Our navigators are going to work with their Meals on Wheels volunteers, and we're going to have a third party that will be able to go to a home and redo their Wi-Fi, make sure their cellular connections work, make sure that everything's operating so they can just basically connect. Next slide, Simone. So again, we're focused on the homebound. One of the biggest needs is to get them on a Zoom or a FaceTime so that they can interact and take part in these group events that they facilitate bingo. So you could be home and play bingo with the rest of your community, which has turned out to be a great interaction. The Seniors First just love what they get hundreds of people that participate. So the other big takeaway was Epic My Charts is Orlando Health, and a number of the big healthcare systems all use this system. And many of the seniors just don't know how to load the software, how to open it. So our navigators are literally going to hold their hand and help them open it the first couple of times and make sure it's properly loaded. So it's that level of detail. And as I mentioned, we'll have a third party that'll be able to go to homes and work with the seniors to make sure everything's operating. If they have a printer, if they've got, anything they're stuck on, we're happy to help them get past those hurdles. Next, yeah, so we did a trial on the digital literacy, and we were really prepared to help with software and programs. And what we found, it was a lot of basics, and the seniors wanted us to show us how to use their smartphones, how to do a FaceTime, and we had 121 people participate. It was 4 sessions of 2 hours each in a group setting, and we had a number of people there that went around and helped each senior. And like I said, it went from a big planned instruction on, maybe a little bit more detailed software uses to really coming down to basics and understanding just how to enable them. Last slide, I think this one. Yeah, and Simone, if you close on, this is a culmination of the whole county's work here. Thank you.
Sure. So what we've done is this is considered our county's and our mayor's jewel. And what we're seeing here as part of the image is an existing building, which is under construction, that's broken into 3 separate parts. One is our multicultural center over to the right that I'm showing. And then the center will be a cool mix of seniors, which is where we're looking to bring some of those initiatives and providing for telehealth access. For those that are there, our senior population is going to be there. So what better planning and opportunity than to be able to access through secured spaces, reaching their doctors to inquire and or to set those appointments while they're there to enjoy the activities that we're bringing to that space. And then over to the left, about 20,000 square foot, overall building is about 60. So if we were to think of it in 3 parts, we've got 20, 20, 20 is our current state of design is our innovation lab, our very first innovation lab. And the good thing about this, this entire building and the purposes that are planned around this, it's in a low-income community, and it's known as Pine Hills, Florida. You may have heard of it. And so we're really looking to revitalize that community and really provide those opportunities for everyone in the community, from youth all the way through seniors, to really get involved and take advantage of the partnerships that occur in this space, from bringing on STEM, from bringing on entrepreneurs, connecting that to enterprise, through ed, through workforce, telehealth spaces, and all things bingo, and the stuff that we expect our seniors to be involved with. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity. We have 3 years ahead, given the ARPA funding, to really create positive impact within our community. And our next big focus and what's planned ahead is truly our deep dive second round of community input and assessment, as Peter has touched on, reaching back into the communities. And it's great because when we start those conversations and we get that excitement, it starts inciting interest and oh, I have a group that you might want to talk to, and that's how we're getting the emerging needs to help us prioritize and move forward. So I'm actually showing my email. So if anyone is interested in reaching out to get a little bit more information, I'd be happy to go into a little bit more details and share any lessons learned, and that's how we can really break down any silos and learn from each other and create greater impact within Florida and beyond. So thank you for the time to talk today.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter and Simone, for sharing that, and also sharing your contact information. I know that it's really helpful to have these calls so everybody can kind of collaborate and ask questions, kind of speak back and forth. So thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. I did see Jake Strawn from Sarasota County said that he would like to add. So Jake, if you would like to, please let me know. But
Sure.
if not, yeah.
But yeah, I can. Am I allowed to share my screen? I can take it to 2 websites.
Sure.
This won't take long. I don't have
No, you're good.
special presentation, so it's kind of ad hoc. So I apologize.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
So I'm a network engineer, so I don't give a lot of speech of humans and stuff. I usually deal with routers and switches all the time. So
No, that's okay.
I'm here in Sarasota County. I lead our local technology planning team. We have one major partnership that we kind of engaged with, and they got our going down the path of creating our local technology planning team is all kudos to the Patterson Foundation, which is like an umbrella organization that interfaces with all our local nonprofits here in Sarasota County. But they also do the same thing at all the other counties that touch our borders, like DeSoto and Charlotte, Manatee, as well as Sarasota. So what I'm going to do here is I'll try to share my screen. So this is the Patterson Foundation, and they have a program called Digital Navigation, and it's kind of one of the things that spun out of their digital equity or digital access for all, what they call it, for reaching out and trying to improve digital equity throughout our community. So one of the things they did with their digital navigator programs, you can see they set up digital navigators and have supervisors in each one of the, well, I wouldn't say all the local nonprofits, but they have them embedded in a lot of the major nonprofits here in Sarasota, like Goodwill and Women's Resource Center and Unidos. And the nice thing about it, as the gentleman in the Orange County presentation said, they are bilingual and sometimes trilingual. They speak multiple languages, which is good. So they have this, and this started out, this was a grassroots effort by the Patterson Foundation. And then when I got involved, I started attending their meetings and things, and then that spun me into, they gave me an understanding what the importance of the local technology planning team, and they pointed me in the direction of the Office of Broadband that started. And then what spun out of that off our team, and they went and we had libraries. We have libraries on our technology planning team, and they attended the Digital Navigator training and course that's offered by the Patterson Foundation, and they created their own kind of Tech Navigator program at each one of our libraries. And here in Sarasota, we have 11 libraries, and they have a Technology Navigator program in each library. And the important thing about it is they can request an appointment with a Tech Navigator, so these people can come into a library or remote and and there's tutorials. They have a lot of technology requests, and there's some learning and things like that. Now, a couple of things I've done since I've been on the team with the Patterson Foundation, I had an event at one of the retirement centers or living areas, and I went there to their community service, and when I showed up, they were saying, hey, there's a person that's a local geek here, bring your devices in, he'll give you a hand with them. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I went there by myself. I was there for 3 hours, and the line, I was kind of amazed how long the line is and how people wanted to engage with me and talk about technology and issues. And they were bringing in multiple devices, and I wasn't prepared to say, all right, we get like 10 minutes per person or what have you. And I was supposed to be there for an hour. I was there for over 3 hours, and which was good because it opened my eyes to like what the community need was in just this one small event, right? So the next thing we did, we went to a veterans event that they had, and this time I was like, all right, I'm gonna bring some people with me. So I brought some people from our help desk team who are a lot smarter than I am with devices and social media and things like that. And one of the things we were stressing, and a lot of the questions that came up was around security and identity theft and things like that. So we were giving them knowledge and pointing them in some areas where they could get some education cells, like especially like in social media. Don't let people know when you're going on vacation and post that to Facebook or what have you and things like that. And don't put any personal information out there that people can gather and do harm and things like that. So that's just a couple of programs from a digital navigator, tech navigator we got going here at Sarasota County, and an engagement with our local technology planning team. So that's all I got. I forgot to tell everybody good morning before I joined, so I apologize for that. But happy holidays to everyone. Everyone, please be safe, and hopefully the weather will warm up a little bit. We're not used to this here in Sarasota, so thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I see that we do have some chats going, which is really great. I know Matt Bussinger asked, are you all leveraging your libraries to host / how some of the navigator groups, I'm trying to think of where we could do the same thing, and that just feels right. And I believe Peter Murray replied saying libraries are collaborating with them. Right now, they are exploring how to bring the library outreach people to navigator sessions at senior centers and community centers. The libraries do win hotspots right now, and they are doing tablets and laptops on how to administer and coordinate. So this is some great stuff here in the chat. I thank you guys for just participating in that. Let me share my agenda again.
And there's a comment from Kyle as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Kyle Hawley had asked, for counties with no large foundations like Patterson, the area United Way could be the best partner for both assessments and navigator programs. Lots of marketing is about to start through United Ways for their annual tax assistant programs. So some might be willing to add on either an assessment survey or begin positioning to house a navigator program. So that's really great information. I know that Simone Babb did put her contact information in there. So if you would, you could put that in the chat again so people can have that if they have more questions. Thank you guys for responding and kind of just going back and forth. Thank you guys. So is there anybody else, any other counties that would like to share kind of what's going on? If you have any digital adoption or digital navigators programs going on in your counties, or if you just have some questions and you kind of just want to collaborate some, that's great. Okay, I don't see anybody. That's okay. I'm glad that we have some information out there. Thank you guys so much for those who did share today. We'll probably do this again in the future just because I think it's really great to have people kind of collaborate, have those discussions, see kind of what's going on in each other's counties. Really helps every kind of plan, kind of hear some ideas and kind of just, I just think collaboration is great. So thank you guys for being a part of that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your email addresses and kind of just being willing to chat. We love to see that between you guys, so thanks. We're going to go ahead and jump into our next agenda item, which is our broadband location challenge process guidance. And Paul Witherspoon in our office is going to go ahead and touch on that.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Paul Witherspoon. I'm the current acting director of Broadband Office and continuing chief broadband funding officer. So got plenty of hats going on here, and we've been very, very busy. Back in December of 22, we received our BEAD planning allocation, and that allocation came with some strings, of course. We had to create a 5-year action plan. We had to create initial proposals, and then we have to create a final proposal. So the 5-year action plan is completed. It is on our website. The initial proposal we chose to break down to 2 volumes. The first volume is probably the one that we're going to talk about most today because it involves the challenge process. And that was open for public comment, which closed last Friday at 11:59 p.m. We got some pretty decent response from public comments on that. And volume 2, which is open still for public comments until tomorrow at midnight. So what I really wanted to talk about today is the challenge process, because it does involve nonprofit organizations and units of local government. And I think that's going to be where you're going to be most involved in this process. So what I'm telling you today is as it stands now. We do have our initial proposal is to be submitted to National Telecommunications Information Administration on the 27th of December. And they will have some comments for us to cure, I'm sure. So between the public comments and the comments that we get from NTIA, we'll finally shape whatever the version is of the initial proposal and our plan moving forward will look like. So as it stands right now, the challenge process is limited to internet service providers, nonprofit organizations, and internet service providers. Those are the only 3 eligible challengers. So to that end, individuals and households are not eligible for that challenge process, but they may be able to file challenges through nonprofit organizations or units of local government. And if you are one of the ones that decides to accept those challenges and forward them to us, your organization will be responsible to do the completed vetting to make sure that the challenge is complete, contains all its information, all the documentation, and that the challenge itself is eligible for challenge. So what is eligible for challenges, that process will be about 120 days. We'll have 4 phases. So challenge for community anchor institutions will be one. And that challenge is related specifically to whether or not the organization should be included in our community anchor institution list. And that list provides eligibility for funding through some of our programs to get access to the internet for 1 gigabyte symmetrical service. That's the sole purpose of the Community Anchor Institution Challenge. I suspect that the lion's share of all community anchor institutions will be provided 1 gigabyte symmetrical service access through our networks that we're going to be building primarily in fiber to those unserved and underserved locations. The second eligible item is location eligibility, and that's to affirm or argue that a location is either underserved or unserved. Unserved is 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload. Underserved is between 25.3 and 100 download and 20 upload. So those are the only locations that are going to be eligible for challenge. And we'll have a pre-deduplicated list out there for you to look at. The other one is enforceable commitments. Those are areas that are perhaps not yet under construction, but they'd be areas like a reconnect or a RDOF area or a project that you're doing under American Rescue Plan Act funds that you receive directly and have subcontracted out to a local internet service provider to create that deployment. We don't know what all of those are, but we know a significant number of them. So if you know of any that are going to be built by American Rescue Plan funds or any other local funds that you have, please make sure the office knows, and we prefer to have that information by Fabric ID. The address will be fine, but Fabric ID makes it much easier for us to kind of go through and vet. And then the other challengeable item is a planned service area. So if you see a location on the list that you are planning to provide service to, then you're encouraged to let us know that that is in fact going to be the case so that we can remove those from the eligible locations. So we'll do that in 4 phases. The first being location eligibility. We currently have it set for 30 days, but many of the public comments said 45, and I'm agreeable to extending that to 45 days. The second phase will be on community anchor institutions eligibility. Then the third is the rebuttal to either of those 2. And then the final determination is the last phase. So all of these challenges have to have sufficient documentation, which is listed in our initial proposal, volume 1, to make sure that we're able to identify that challenge is legitimate or not. Then we'll make a final determination on that. So that's in essence what we're going to do. We plan on having local training. We haven't decided exactly where yet, but probably 5 or 6 regional locations where we'll provide training to nonprofits and internet service providers and the local governments to make sure that they understand the challenge process, what's eligible, what's not, what kind of documentation you need to support a challenge, and how you go about vetting these things and submitting them to us. We'll do a couple of webinars also, so that if you're not able to meet go to one of the local ones, you'll be able to listen in on a webinar and get the same type of information. We also plan to post a list of community anchor institutions and internet, eligible locations, BEAD eligible locations, about a month in advance of opening the challenge process, which will give you all an opportunity to kind of go through them and make your determinations, make sure that your community anchor institution is listed or not, and then challenge that when the challenge period opens. Same with locations. Very, very important that we have an accurate list of the BEAD eligible locations. There's a limited amount of funding. We want to make sure that we cover every location in the state of Florida to have at least 100 megabits per second download and 20 megabits per second upload, scalable over time to 100. And in order to do that, it's going to take everybody taking a look at this list to make sure that we've done the appropriate vetting and all the deduplication has been done. NTIA has been kind enough to review our list once we complete it and make sure that we haven't missed anything or there haven't been any oversights. They're moving goalposts, so it's a very difficult process because the location fabric changes probably twice a month, and then the serviceable locations, then the actual map locations change probably every 6 months because there's new maps that come out from the FCC every 6 months, and then there's bi-monthly updates by the internet service provider. So if you're an internet service provider, make sure you get that information to the FCC in a timely manner. And if you're a unit of local government, I would suggest that you get a license from CostQuest, and we can show you how to get that so that you can take a look at the fabric IDs and locations and see whether you agree or disagree with what's on that map. And then ultimately, if you agree or disagree on our deduplication process, so that by the time we get to deployment, selecting subrecipients and all, every location that we identify as unserved or underserved is absolutely accurate, and we don't go wasting time trying to serve an area that's already either going to be served or is under a commitment by another federal program or under ARPA commitment or is already served, because the maps lag time, right? So we want to make sure that this is as accurate as we can conceivably get. So that's essentially all I have for you now. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, there's one in the chat.
Yes, there's actually a couple in the chat. So Craig Pumpkin Spice Coffee, like, I love that. You said that you had mentioned local government, and then when you described, you did not mention local government. So I'm assuming his question is, can a local government challenge?
Yes, units of local and tribal governments are eligible to challenge either community anchor institutions or eligibility locations.
Okay, and then Kyle Hawley commented, Paul, please recap timing for the challenge processes. How long do we have to educate ourselves, perform outreach, and still have time to submit completed challenges? When will the list of CAIs be published?
So we're still going through the NTIA vetting process. So as soon as our initial proposal is approved, then we can start working on that challenge process. But we'll have the locations and CAIs out at least 30 days in advance of opening the challenge process. So you'll have a full month at least to look at the locations and the CAIs and make sure that folks know about them. You can do your public outreach, and we'll make sure that you have training and all to do all of that in advance.
All right, wonderful. Any other questions before we move on?
Paul, this is David Palmer in Polk County. Question around one of the things that I thought I had heard is that for local governments that will be able to challenge, I thought I heard that we would be the ones responsible for putting together all of the backup data for it. Is that correct? And being able to put it into the system to be able to note it. We have a significant number down here that are considered served, but they're via Viasat. And we have the individual validations that where they are not served completely or fall well with underneath the 25.3. So we're concerned how we're going to challenge that.
The nice part, David, is you don't have to, right? Because all satellite locations are considered unserved or underserved. So that'll eliminate that problem. And we have selected to add a modification to our challenge process to where DSL locations are also considered underserved. So if they're served by copper DSL, they'll automatically be on the list as underserved. So I would make sure that I check that list first before you go through all the hassles of trying to identify all those that have satellite locations or DSL service.
And that's great, Paul. The challenge there is the gap because we don't always get the visibility in what the providers are applying for as they're going through the grant application process. We don't have the specific fabric IDs or addresses. And because of that, they're looking at it and saying those areas are served, and it's from the bigger providers. And we know that, and they're skipping those because they're showing up in the fabric ID as served.
So we've got a resolution for that as well. But we're not letting the service providers select the areas. We are going to identify those areas for service and all of those underserved or unserved locations within that. And those will be the areas that the internet service providers can either submit applications for or forego. And our maps will not include satellite or DSL as served. So we'll take care of that problem for you as well.
All right. And then the last one along that line is the addresses. We are seeing as well as that critical infrastructure, which are addresses within those project areas are also getting skipped because there's a definition for CAI, community anchor, and residential, but not a really good loop in of critical infrastructure.
Yeah, so we're going to, the CAIs we're using is the definition that's in the United States Code, and critical infrastructure is not part of that. However, if you have critical infrastructure that's in an area that's unserved or underserved, there's going to be fiber going through there at some point during the BEAD process anyhow. So I suspect that the lion's share of your critical infrastructure or the community anchor institutions that are lacking that service right now will be served simply by the fact that we're going to be building infrastructure to residential areas that go through all of those areas anyhow.
Right. And I understand conceptually you would think that would be the case. And once again, that would be ideal if it was. But then I also saw in volume 2 where we've elaborated on the extremely high cost and line extensions. And
Yes.
then those areas are getting labeled as such and also getting skipped over from both residential and from CIIs and CIs.
So once again, we're going to set the areas for the locations. So they're not going to have the opportunity to skip them. If they want to submit an application for a service area, then they got to take the good with the bad. They got to serve every location within that service area that is currently unserved or underserved.
Okay. And I know that this starts up tomorrow, or the submission for volume 2, but I had clearly seen that both line extensions and extremely high costs are being addressed specifically in volume 2 as
That's correct.
potential. Yeah, I just, my fear is still, because the way it's worded, that those will be allowed to be skipped or come up with some other mechanism to be able to feed them either a satellite back to satellite or fixed wireless, etc.
Yep. So I read your comments, David, and they are incorporated into the comments that will be submitted along with our proposal And they will be considered along with the NTIA comments during that curing process.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul. And once again, I wanted to get some clarity there. So for my partners also in local government, you might want to take a look at volume 1, volume 2. Volume 1's passed, but volume 2 is due tomorrow. And perhaps, contribute your comments as well. So thank you, Paul. And team, this isn't being critical. This is just trying to get an understanding of how we're going to get this done and funded.
So I understand your passion, and I don't take anything personal. So
Right.
This is a job, and we all have an end goal to serve every
Right.
location in the state with the best service we possibly can. So,
Right.
So I appreciate your comments and the discussions that we've had. I don't take any of that personal ever.
Well, no, I know you don't, Paul. So thank you. I didn't want anybody else to understand what I'm asking. So thank you.
Fair enough.
Okay, I did see that we had a hand raised, but I believe it's been taken down. Or if you would like, okay.
Yeah, it's Archer Statue of Palm Beach, but
Yeah.
but David did ask a question about the critical service institution. That's one of the questions I was asking. But the other one would have been, I think it's probably a mute point, but would areas serviced by Wi-Fi be considered served if there's some vendors that provide service using Wi-Fi? Is that considered served?
So you're talking about fixed wireless?
Fixed wireless, yes.
Yes. So depending on the service for fixed wireless, if it meets the requirements of being at 100/20, then it's considered served.
Okay. Thank you.
More than
Okay,
welcome.
thank you. Do we have any other questions for Paul? No?
Well,
Okay, we're
Thank you
Paul,
very
did you
much,
wanna say
everybody.
something?
And
Okay.
Have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
All right, thank you
Merry
so much,
Christmas.
Paul.
Merry Christmas to y'all.
Okay, so we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which will be our funding needs of our LTPTs, and Sean Lewis is going to talk about that a little bit. Sean, if you would like to go ahead. I believe you are muted.
Good
There you
morning.
go.
Yeah, it's stuck. Good morning, everybody. I'm here to talk to you about something hopefully that is good news. Paul had mentioned to you, I think on our last call, that we had funding that we had budgeted specifically for the LGPTs to support your activities. We've been reaching out. We really would like to know, excuse me, what are some of the activities that you anticipate using the funding for, so that we can get an idea of what the needs are, and so that we can vet some of those activities before you pursue them, because we want to make sure that they are activities that we can pay for with public funds. For example, we cannot pay for any food or beverages and things like that. We want to make sure that whatever the expenses are, that they can be covered under what's allowable under the Guide to State Expenditures. So I would love to hear from the LTPT leads. What are some of the things, some of the challenges that you see in terms of running your teams? What are the types of activities that you think you would need the funding for? Let's see, there was something popped up in the chat there. What are the limits? I believe that we've set aside something like $1,000 a month per LTPT. So we're looking to find out what kinds of things would you use the funding for? Some of the things that popped into my head, but I wanted to kind of vet these things, are there challenges with meeting spaces? Are there challenges with renting the facilities to hold the meetings? Are there things like that? So I'd love to hear from the group. What are the kinds of things that you could really use that funding for to support your activities? feel free to unmute yourselves or pop it into the chat, because we'd like to record them to get an idea of what to expect. And since all of the LTPTs are set up differently, some of them are not led by a unit of local government. What we are anticipating is doing direct payment for some of these activities, so that there would not be any administrative headaches or problems with getting things paid. We would pre-authorize the expenses to make it very, very simple for all of you. So let's hear. Okay.
Sean, this is Justin in Hardy County.
Hey, Justin.
A couple of things that have come up. We've had some things that we've looked at, some partnerships, some just several things, and many times it comes around of, well, do we need a legal opinion on this? So, and where do we pass that off to someone else, and how much is the LTPT responsible for? So that would be one of the primary ones that I would have an interest in. Also, the LTPT has been, that in our area, has been hosting some outreach, some workshop classes. And so far we've been able to get spaces donated. And however, will that continue to be the case? We're not sure. So that would be nice to know if we could utilize some funds to rent spaces for community outreach. Also for marketing and advertising for those, you know, the newspaper or however we're going to market it. Again, we've been able to get most of this donated through another nonprofit. Not sure how long that will be able to hold out. And then for these community outreach, we've targeted speakers many times, and we've been able to get those donated. However, we may come up with a speaker who is going to cost something, or presenter or something. So any of those, any type of professional fees like that, those are just some off the top of my head.
This is fantastic feedback. Great stuff. Okay.
And Sean, we do have a bunch of comments in the chat.
Yeah, I'm writing these
which
down.
is great.
Yeah, this is fantastic, folks. Thank you so much for this feedback, because this is exactly what we needed to know.
A good portion of my team's staff time is directly paid for by an MSTU. So if it would be possible to JV some of that back to the MSTU, I could actually use those staff to do some of this outreach and to do the talk to a nerd type meetings. Without that, I wouldn't be able to use those folks for that at all.
Gotcha. Oh, I'm seeing some fantastic stuff here. Great. Brochures. Most of what I'm seeing here would be eligible activities like the brochures, the marketing, the meeting space. This is all really good. Website development, very good.
Sean, this is Simone with Orange County. Would we have an opportunity to think a little bit more about this and reach out to you?
Absolutely. If things pop up, please just reach out to both Matea and I, and we'd love to talk with you.
Thank you so much.
And if there are any things that are explicitly prohibited that are suggested, we will let the whole group know these are the things that we can't pay for. So this is great. We're going to put together a very comprehensive list of what's been discussed and what's been offered, and we'll push that back out to you so that everyone has an idea of what you can and can't do.
Awesome.
So
Sean, sorry, go ahead, Simone.
I'm sorry, let me ask a broad question. So any conversations that we have with overall community through the LTPT meetings where, you know, planning is required and we need support to hire skilled staff for planning initiatives to advance programs, would that be something that could be applicable? So now we're talking third party to advance the program. Or is it more?
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or is it more geared to, direct involvement, like brochures and stuff like that?
We are looking for more direct things, but let's talk. Let's get some more specifics about, because I've seen consulting pop up a couple times. So we will be very specific about what would be allowed and what would not, because there's certain things that we can't do, things like lobbying and things like that. So we'll give you some really good direction there.
Awesome, because for my office, staffing is limited, but we have such great input and, goals that we want to achieve near term and long term that stems from what we decide on today, and that today's decision comes with defined funding. So I would love to have those conversations. Thank you.
Excellent.
And Sean, for kind of guidelines, when would you like to have this feedback back into your office by? And when do you think you might be able to get back to us on what funding mechanisms may be available?
If folks would get me some today, next week is going to be probably a down week for everybody. So let's look at the calendar real quick. If folks could get me their feedback by, let's say by Friday the 5th, and then we'll turn that back around to everyone that following week. Does that work for everybody?
Sure, thank you. That helps. Having
Wonderful.
some guardrails. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. AV equipment. Okay, fantastic. Okay. Mobile devices. Excellent. Thank you, Armin. We really, it's important to us that these meetings are useful to all of you. We know how valuable everyone's time is, so we try to schedule these meetings with really important information that's useful to everyone and helps every team move forward. So thank you. Really appreciate that feedback. I think Matea has done just a fantastic job this year of facilitating these meetings and working with all of our teams. She's a rock star on our team. Very happy to have her.
Thank you, Matea. We love you. Happy holidays, Sean and Matea. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. All right, Sean. Well, I did write down all of that stuff in the chat. It's a pretty good list. So thank you guys so much for sharing all of those. If there's anything else you guys can think of, you can go ahead and put that in the chat and I'll write it down. Again, like you guys were saying, you might need some time to kind of send that to us. So I think you said January 5th, which is a Friday. So just get those lists back to us. That would be super helpful. But some really great stuff in here. So thank you guys so much for sharing that. And the last little portion of our agenda today is just going to be a Q&A. So if you guys, or actually the local technology planning team updates. So we want to open up the floor to you guys. Any wins, anything like that going on in your communities, things that you're excited about, maybe some concerns, if you have questions, anything like that, please feel free to share. We want to hear all the good things, things that you have concerns about, anything regarding that.
Hello, Matea. It's Kyle Holly over in Santa Rosa. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So I think we're just here in Santa Rosa right now. We're very focused on trying to help our industry partners deliver a skilled workforce. And so I was glad to see at the last webinar that the office is really trying to think through the best way for the workforce boards to partner with local school districts and potentially state colleges. And we're trying to think of two models as well that would work for us locally that we hope to then share with you all in more detail. We noticed that there's only one telecommunications academy in the state that we know of. It's in Escambia County. Cox Communications and some others provided some services there. So we went next door for a tour. What I see as something I want to bring forward today is I want to make sure that as a state, we're trying to think, how could we really afford to pull skilled technicians out of private industry and turn them into qualified instructors in skill-based training programs. The second thought I have, and I don't mean to be too fragmented, is when we went outside of that facility to look at the pole installations that they would need to, demonstrate these skills or teach the skills, it occurs to me that in most of our rural counties, we're going to have fairground types of places that are probably owned by local governments. So it is a thought that's emerging is, could we create as local governments training facilities on our fairgrounds to then contract with skill-based providers, whether that's a company like MassTech in utilizing private industry, or whether we need to really contract and bring in state colleges. But it looks to me like if we leverage those infrastructure facilities, we could spin up training programs really pretty quickly across the state. So I just wanted to this morning kind of toss some of that stuff out for maybe some of the rural counties, to just kind of help them get thinking about how together as a state we could respond with a labor force. So I do thank you for the time.
Hi, Kyle.
so
This is
much.
Sean. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay. Kyle, we are in your head, my friend. We are having those discussions right now at the state level about really building up this broadband workforce. We have a couple of different things that we are working on, a couple of things that we are noodling over right now. I would love to get some of your suggestions. Actually, that's an open invitation to everyone here. If you have ideas about that, we have been in conversation with some of the state colleges who have some disparate training programs and things like that. We are also talking with the Learning Alliance out of Central Florida. We're talking with a number of different groups about how to face this challenge. So yes, Kyle, you are once again spot on. We are working on that as we speak. In terms of doing it individually, there's nothing to preclude that. But what we are trying to come up with is a number of options to do that, either at at some kind of a centralized level or at a regional level. So yeah, Kyle, let's have a chat.
I'll be glad to do that, because we have a certain amount of it's interesting, adjacent to our fairgrounds, we have RV parks. So if we took a regional model, accommodations could may not be as big of a limit as we might think in some cases. So yes, I'll also try to include some more detail to you, Sean, and thank you again for the time.
Absolutely. We always love your input. Thank you, Kyle.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to share? Thank you so much, Kyle, for sharing that.
Matea, I'll jump in real quick because
Okay.
Kyle's comments got me a little excited on that, because
Okay, good.
we have engaged with our local state college. Matter of fact, last week we hosted a workshop on the use of artificial intelligence technologies, and partnered with them. We were able to use their facilities, but going a step further with that, and something Kyle said is utilizing our fairgrounds. So one of the grant applications we put in for the multi-purpose facilities is for a building at our fairgrounds in order to host events like this. And we were working with the college on what technologies, if we get awarded the grant, what technologies we would want to have in there for their professors to be able to utilize it. And it's also adjacent to our high school, which we working with their programs on how we could utilize that building and be easy for the high school students to come over and be a place separate from the high school, but still connected to all of these uses that we would have for that building. So just, and again, we're in a rural area, so we're having to use things like that, but I was excited that other people are thinking along the same lines of what we're trying to do. So really good stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Excellent.
Is
Very
there
timely
anyone else?
discussion.
Yes. If there's no one else, we can just go on to Q&A. If you guys have any questions for us or for Sean or Paul or maybe anybody else that spoke today. All right, I believe that's it. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who spoke, presented today. We really appreciate everyone participating. Obviously, all of the discussion back and forth is amazing to see. We love hearing you guys' ideas. So thank you just so much for always sharing and being a part and just being really great participants. We always really enjoy that with you guys. Just every meeting, I know you guys are always just really great. So thank you for that. So this is the last meeting of the year. It's really exciting. I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful Christmas and happy holidays, happy New Year's, all of those great things. Our next meeting will be Thursday, January 18th, same time, 10:30. And thank you guys so much. The recording will go up, and I guess if we have anything else, you guys let me know. You can always reach out. I'll probably be reaching out to a couple of you guys, so thank you so much. I just hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Bye, guys. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, Marcus.
Thank you. Happy holidays.